This is going to be an interview. This is my father, John, about the Battle of the Bulge in December 1944.
46, 45.
Yeah, 45.
Well, let's see. It would have been in 44.
Right. And how old were you when you first went to France?
I was 18 years of age when we left New York via boat for England.
And what was the boat trip like? What kind of boat was it?
Horrible. It was just a big old heavy-duty tub. There were about 40 different units of all kind in our. Everything went in convoy style.
I see.
And a lot of the way over, they would drop barrels of dynamite or other explosives in the ocean and see if they could injure or wipe out a German submarine.
Did you see any German submarines or any kind of? Were you attacked on the way over at all?
No.
And how long did the voyage take?
About 11 days, believe it or not.
11 days. And then you landed in what city in Lyons?
Well, to digress just a moment,
Sorry.
the ships were in convoy style,
Right.
and what that means is they zigged and zagged all the way across the ocean.
Right.
Go in one direction for so long, then they'd switch and they'd go in another direction.
So they didn't take a predictable pattern.
No.
Uh-huh. Okay. And when you landed, how many people were with you?
Oh, I think there were about maybe 1,000 in our troop ship, and then of course there were dozens of other ships, military ships carried everything from supplies, nurses, some of the top people that were in the Army, a lot of Navy people, and still ours was one of the smaller convoys
And
during the war.
which unit was your designated in the Army? I've never been there, but which you were under Patton, but what was your unit and battalion?
Oh, I don't really remember that, but I was in the 41st Cavalry,
41st Cavalry,
the 11th Armored Division,
11th Armored.
the 3rd Army under General Patton.
Under General Patton. And when you landed, what was the weather like? Did you land in winter?
Yes, it was horrible weather. As I recall, we went overseas in about October of that year, and it's very stormy on the seas. England was completely fogged in, and they were fogged in for months out of the year.
I see. Uh-huh.
It might be a wonderful place for some people to live, but you'd have to give me good old sunny Washington State
Right.
alongside of that. Of course, it was winter time, and every place we went during those times up to combat, whether it was France or England, Belgium,
Uh-huh.
we were tied to the weather.
Now, you were telling me some stories that when you got over there, you noticed that in the dance halls that all the black soldiers had all the the French girls all over them, and it was a very interesting story you told me about the French had never seen a lot of black people, and how did these black soldiers get all the French women?
Well, I need to interrupt that.
Okay.
If I did say France, I should have said England.
England, I'm sorry.
We were allowed so many hours off after we had been stationed there for so long.
Uh-huh.
And so we would either look up a beer hall where there was some action,
Right.
or England is through the USO
USO clubs.
would have put on dances. And the thing that we ran into was that the blacks at that time, they were not called blacks, incidentally, were simply not allowed to mix.
Right. It was a
I
different
did
time.
not have any black people in our unit at all.
Right. They had separate units.
They were kept separated. But one thing that we did notice was that it wasn't too long after the dance started, and you would be sitting in one place in the dance hall,
Yes.
and you would go over to ask one of the English ladies to dance,
Right.
and you might be turned down as well as be accepted.
Okay.
Then a black person, male, would come along, and they would very readily dance with them. And we were trying to find out really what we really were scratching our heads, and we were in kind of a state of shock. This sort of thing never happened before.
Uh-huh.
Well, one of the ladies told me that the reason they liked American black soldiers are that with just a flick of a needle, they could become white again. They were made in black in color because they would blend in with the terrain.
Right.
And this was pretty hard for us to combat in a dance hall. This continued right on through to the end of the war. And that's why you see, or at least heard of, many thousands of colored children. The white women with the black soldiers.
So the black soldiers had told the French women that they were a superior fighting soldier because they were designed to fight at night, and that they were the superior American soldiers.
Remember now that this is in England, not
In
France.
England. I mean, that was the line that they used on the French or English women.
Once we left England and landed in France, we never had any time off,
I see.
at any time. But in England, besides preparing for the war itself, we had time on our hands.
Now, when you were stationed in combat, where did you see your first German soldier?
Well, the first German soldier that I ever saw was when we were actually, we went into combat without any units.
Okay.
Mechanical units. The hills, the mountains of the Ardennes, far too steep. And it was an extremely cold winter, probably the coldest in 40 years.
Uh-huh.
And I've kind of forgotten where I was, so where am I now with you?